So let's go ahead and break down the steps to make sure you can easily set up your LLC. But most importantly, make sure that your business is actually set up properly. We'll be specifically talking about the steps that I use to create my LLC. I'll also be including all the mistakes that I've made along the way, so make sure you pay attention so you don't make those same mistakes as well. As I'm breaking down each step, I'll also be giving you an estimated cost, as well as some of our top partners that you can use to be able to get it done even more efficiently. Now, just a little disclaimer, some of these guys do give us a small commission based on the amount of people that actually sign up, but it's at no additional cost to you. So if you'd like to support the channel, be sure that you click on the links to be able to just help us continue to grow. Now let's go ahead and jump into the video. You'll notice that I'm actually shooting in a different location. I shot this video right before leaving. Now I'm currently actually in Belgium, in Europe, and I'll be here for a couple months. But I shot this video right before I was leaving and didn't have time to shoot the intro, so I'm shooting it now. So let's go ahead and jump into the video. Now, when it comes to actually creating an LLC, I initially started creating an LLC just for the protection, especially when I was doing Amazon at the time. So basically I was selling products through Amazon's platform, and I began to hear a lot of stories in the community about people who were getting sued for whatever reason, right? And pretty much losing everything. And I didn't really know much about, starting a business or anything like that. At this point, I was just getting out of college. So it really made me want to start deep diving into all this information and understanding why you needed to incorporate your business, what kind of protections that you could have as a business owner to make sure that you didn't, end up losing everything just trying to make the world a better place, right? And so one of the things that I started doing was I created an LLC, and I used the LLC for pretty much testing different ideas. A lot of people out there might be under the perception that you have to make a new LLC for every business you start, and that's not really the way that I went about it. What I did was I created an LLC, and all that LLC was there for was for me to test out different things that I was doing, right? I started off with Amazon FBA, was trying to sell different products, and if something was successful, then I would take that product or business model or whatever it was, and I would roll it into an LLC of its own, right? And so this made it really efficient, because what I could do is I could have one LLC here where I'm just trying out different ideas, and as soon as one works, I'm popping it into another LLC of itself. That way it's still insulated and is protected from whatever might happen in my testing LLC, okay? And so that's why I think a lot of the stuff that I'm going to teach here is, yes, it's beneficial for you if you're just starting out a business, but it's also something that, as you find something that works, you're going to be able to continue to repeat the processes that are mentioned in this video. So that's really at least something that I wanted to touch on here at the beginning, right? That LLCs, one of the main reasons that they're important is because it gives you some sort of protection legally, okay? Now, I do have to throw a quick disclaimer here, guys. I am not your attorney. These views are my opinion, right? And be sure to talk to your attorney before taking any of the steps that I might mention, or if you're unsure about anything that I'm talking about, be sure that you're reaching out to your attorney. Now that we got the legal stuff out of the way, how can you actually go about setting up your LLC? So what you can do is you can actually just Google search, your Secretary of State's website. You can typically just type in, Georgia Secretary of State or Texas Secretary of State, and you're going to see their website that's going to pop up. And from there, you should be able to find links on their website to be able to create an LLC. Now, this is the route that I took. Back in the day, there wasn't a lot of information out there. There wasn't even a lot of these companies that are out there nowadays that can actually do this process for you. So I had to go about figuring out, go through all the steps, everything's a lot tougher when you're doing it directly through the government, I found. So it actually took me a couple of days to go through the website and be able to figure out exactly how to fill out each of the different sections that they were asking me about. Now it's a lot easier for me now that I've gotten accustomed to it, but the landscape has changed a lot since my time. I think it's been probably 7 years now. So one of the companies I typically recommend to people if they're just starting off and they want to create an LLC is a company called Inc. Authority. Now, I recommend them because they actually, one, will create the LLC for you for free, right? So not only do they make sure that your LLC is created correctly, and they're going to be a lot more user friendly than your Secretary of State's website, that's for sure. But they also give you a full year of registered agent services. Okay. Now in the next section, we're going to talk about registered agent services. So I'm going to go deeper into that here in a minute, but let me first touch on the actual cost of this. Okay. Now, when it comes to the cost of their service, it's going to be completely free, right? But it does not include what you would pay for your state. Okay, each state is going to charge a different filing fee for you to create your LLC for the first time. Now, these fees can range from $40 to $500, just depending on what your state wants to charge. Okay, so you're going to see some states are going to be as high as 500, some as low as 40. Now in Texas, where I'm located, it actually costs around $300 to be able to create an LLC. That's what made the technique that I was talking about earlier even more beneficial, right? The fact that I only had one LLC that I was trying different ideas out of, that made it a lot easier for me because I didn't have to create a new LLC every time I wanted to try something new, right? I just did it all inside of one LLC, and then the ones that worked is what I rolled into actually full companies. So I'll link to Inc. Authority down below, and also any other website or a company that I mentioned, I'll make sure to be linking down below in the description as well. The next thing you want to do is find a registered agent. Okay, now that's what I was mentioning that Inc. Authority gives for free when you create an LLC. But if you already have an LLC, you want to make sure that you are getting a registered agent as well. Okay, the reason it's so important is because this is what's required for service. Okay, now what I mean by that is if someone ever wants to sue you, right, they're going to be able to look up your company's name and be able to find a registered agent, and that's who they're going to be able to send the legal paperwork to. Now, what typically happens is when someone's making a new business, what they'll usually do is list themselves as a registered agent. That's pretty much what I did with my first company, right? And the issue that comes with it is now that your address or whatever information that you list is now public record. So what that meant for me was that my old address was now pretty much plastered all over the internet, right? If you just had Googled my company when I was doing Amazon, you would be able to find my old address. So I had to actually go about getting that information removed. The reason being is that now you have to worry about, you don't know what could happen, right? Especially when you're dealing with clients or you're dealing with customers, you don't know what could possibly happen, right? It could be a situation where, you get an angry customer and they decide to, pull up to your house or something, right? You really don't know what could happen. So I've always tried to be careful with that and have since either used an address that I don't live at or use a registered agent, which now I'm leaning way more towards the registered agent. That's currently what I'm doing now. Now, when it comes to actually finding a registered agent, what you can do is you can just Google search registered agent plus whatever city that you live in. You don't expect much from these guys, right? So they don't need to be like, state of the art or anything like that, but you want to make sure that they're reputable. That's one thing. I think it's not asking for too much, but you do want to make sure that they're able to deliver your mail in a timely manner, in a timely fashion, right? Because you got to keep in mind that the mail that they're going to be getting is going to be mail that is going to have to do with taxes, right? So you needing to pay taxes or whatever the case may be, or it's going to be having to do with you being served. So someone's trying to sue your business, and you want to make sure that as soon as they get that paperwork, they're getting it to you as fast as possible, so you have more time to figure out how you're going to respond to that. So that's important. And also, of course, you want to make sure that they're not like a small mom and pop, because it could be a situation where they go out of business, and more than likely they're not going to tell you when they go out of business, and now you're kind of stuck not receiving any information that you should have been receiving from those guys. Now, the company I typically recommend and that we're partnered with is a company called Northwest Registered Agent. Now, they make this process really easy, and the great thing is they actually have locations everywhere in each state of the United States, okay? So they're a great company to use, especially if you live somewhere overseas, so you couldn't even use yourself as a registered agent, or you're someone who wants to make sure that your public address isn't out on the internet for anyone to track down, right? So they make the process really simple, and you can make sure that it's a location that's somewhere near you. Now, when it comes to the actual cost, they charge $125 a year. Now, the average cost is typically going to be between $100 to $300 a year, right? And they can give additional services if you need them. Like, for example, if you need unlimited mail forwarding, you can always just sign up for that service. It's offered for an additional fee. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set up your EIN number. Okay, that's your employer identification number. Now, this is the equivalent of your social security number, right? But for your business. This is pretty much the number you're going to need to start building business credit, right? To be able to even have employees or even open up a bank account, right? All the, especially when you're dealing with lenders or dealing in the finance space, having to do with your business, they're going to want you to provide them this number, just to be able to kind of see what you've been up to as a business. Now, I shot a lot of videos talking about business credit and how that industry works. So you can be sure to check the rest of the videos on my channel to be able to learn more about business credit if that's something that you're interested in. Now, when it comes to actually getting your employer identification number, it's a really easy process that only takes about 10 minutes to fill out. And when you fill this out yourself, you're actually going to be able to get your EIN number pretty fast. For me, it took about 1 business day. So what I'll do is I'll link to the IRS website down below in the description for you to check out. You can pretty much do this by yourself. It's really simple. And I'll also link to a video that I shot where I walk you through step by step how to get that done. So the good thing about this is the estimated cost is going to come out to $3, so you don't have to worry about paying anything. The IRS doesn't charge you for you to be able to actually get this done for yourself. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're getting a business bank account. Okay. Now this is important because you don't want to be mixing up your personal funds with your business funds, right? Because this can lead to something called piercing the corporate veil. And that's just one thing that is going to cause you trouble with. Now, piercing the corporate veil pretty much means like when someone sues you and they can prove that you've been mixing your business funds with your personal funds, it kind of it's like you're no longer operating a business, right? You're really operating a business in name only. But if you're mixing all the funds, then they can now say, hey, whatever this guy owns personally should be mixed in with the business as well. So when I sue the business, I can also sue him personally and be able to get, I can be able to, take control of his house, take control of his car and any other assets that he owns under his personal name, because it's technically part of the business now. So those are kind of things, one of the main reasons why you want to be careful. On top of that, you also want to watch out, with, tax issues and things like that. That was one of the big mistakes that I made earlier on, is that, I had issues keeping track of my expenses because I was using, a personal credit card for business and personal expenses, right? And it became a headache for me because, now I had to, during tax season, try to sift through all my transactions to figure out, which one was for the business, which one was for me. Right? And that's something that you don't want to deal with. So early on, I always recommend that people just get at least a business bank account where you're running all the transactions through. Just make it a lot easier for you or your accountant. Now, when it comes to what kind of companies you can use, I've shot videos kind of breaking down what the top business bank accounts are. One that I typically recommend is Novo Bank. Now, they are a great neobank that doesn't charge you monthly. You're not gonna pay any type of monthly fees. They really don't have many fees at all when you really look at it, right? And they'll give you a physical card. I actually have one of the cards here myself. Let me go ahead and pull it out for you. This is one of their cards right here that you can take a look at. I'll hold it up here a little closer to the camera so y'all can see it, hopefully it's in focus. Anyways, this card has been great. I actually just recently got it. I typically use their bank for online transactions, so I'm not using the actual debit card itself too much. But one thing that I did find beneficial for these guys is that they also give you a lot of virtual cards, which is pretty dope. So what that means is, a lot of times whenever you're applying for things online, you don't want them to have complete access to your bank account. Now, I've shot videos about this before, about how it could really hurt your business if, let's say, for example, you're using a software, you sign up for a software with your physical card, and the software is supposed to charge you $10 a month, but they end up charging you $10,000 in a month, right? And that could really hurt you when it comes to your cash flow and things like that. So that's why I really like how a lot of these neobanks are starting to use virtual cards, where you can literally set up a specific card for each individual software company that you're using, or each individual subscription that you're signing up for. And you can even set limits with a lot of these companies. They allow you to set limits to where you say, hey, don't let more than $15 a month be charged to this card, and don't let more than $30 a month be charged to this card, right? So that to me is a really big game changer. On top of that, one thing I really like about Novo Bank is they don't charge any type of ATM fees worldwide. Okay, so me, I'm always moving around, I'm traveling. If you've seen some of my other videos, you'll see that my background's typically changing because of, I'm shooting from different places like Airbnbs or rentals, whatever the case may be. So it comes in clutch for me that they're reimbursing ATM fees if I ever need to take out money for a business expense. Now, if you want to learn more about Novo Bank, I'll link to them down below in the description, but I also shot another video that I'll link to down below that you can check out, where I talk even deeper about what kind of features that they have. Now, when it comes to the estimated cost, again, they are free. So I think this is going to be a game changer for a lot of people. They don't even have a minimum that you need to keep in your account as well, right? They do have a minimum. I think when you first open, you need to put in at least $50, but once you put in that $50, then it's kind of free reign on how you use the account. The next thing you want to do is get a business phone number. Okay. Now, I think this is important for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest for me was, the peace of mind and the safety aspect of it, right? You want to make sure that you're separating your business and your personal life. I still remember when I first started, I was I was really doing things online, and I resorted to just having people send a reply to me through email. But what I didn't realize was that I had set up with my payment processor I had set up my account with my personal phone number. So what they were doing is they were putting my personal phone number in all of my customers' bank charges. So if a customer had, bought something from me, whenever they went to their bank account, they would see a line item for whatever they purchased from me, right? What they could do is, in most banks, they'll let you click into that transaction. You'll be able to get more information, right? Who that transaction came from, what kind of a description for what that transaction is, so on and so forth. And what my payment processor was doing was adding my phone number there in case they wanted to reach out to me. And so I started getting phone calls from people, asking, questions about the product, or asking if they could get, refunds, or how long it would take to ship, whatever the case may be. And they were calling on my personal phone number, right? And so that's whenever I realized how important it is for me to have an actual business phone number to make sure that I could, have a business line that I could shut off outside of business hours, so I wasn't getting calls in the middle of the night, whatever the case may be. So when it comes to companies that I personally use a company called Grasshopper. Now, they can be used from an app that you actually download onto your phone. So you can still get calls directly to your phone. It's not like you need to buy a whole separate phone to be able to use. And the great thing with the app is you can actually, set it off or turn it off whenever you want. So for example, if you just wanted to be on from 9 to 5, you can have that set up, which is a great addition that they provide. It also comes with a virtual fax. So I could have people, sending me faxes. If they wanted to send me documents in, I could have them send it through, have them fax that number, and I would get it through email. And I was also able to text people. That was huge for me, was having the business texting, so I can be able to send text messages to people as well. Now, I've shot a whole nother video on them as well. I'll link to it down below, as well as a link to their website so you can check it out for more information. Now, when it comes to the cost, they're gonna run about $30 per month, right? That is the on the low end, they have $30 a month for a phone number and for 3 extensions. Now, the next thing I'm going to touch on is a professional email. Now, this is going to be important because it really comes down to building trust with your customers and your partners, right? Think about it as if a big company were to reach out to you, from a Gmail account or a Yahoo account, wouldn't you be a little nervous when you went to their website about entering your credit card information onto that website? If someone reaches out to you, let's say, for example, Apple was just starting off and their website was, or their email address was apple@gmail.com or apple@yahoo.com. That would make you a little more nervous. Why didn't they have a branded email account, right? Why wouldn't it be support@apple.com, for example? Now, me, being someone who's shooting videos online, I have this YouTube channel. I get reached out by a lot of, potential affiliate companies that want to promote through my channel, right? And it always makes me laugh how some people will reach out to me from a Gmail account or a Yahoo account. So it might be, business funding company at yahoo.com, right? And they'll reach out to me asking to promote something to my audience. Now, to me, I won't promote anything. First, I like to do the due diligence, and you guys have seen that I don't promote a lot of things to you guys. I'm not, referring or doing a lot of video sponsorships with a lot of companies. I typically want to first see what these companies are offering and making sure that it's something that's going to bring value to you guys who are watching, but also, is this something that I will use myself? Typically, if some company wants me to talk about them, I'll typically use them for a little bit first before I recommend them to other people. Or I want to make sure that people in my audience have used them before and have had a good experience with them. So you can imagine how it looks for me whenever I'm, talking with some of these companies and they don't even have a branded email account. It kind of makes me a little nervous because is this someone who just started, right? I don't want it to be someone who's just getting started and then I promote some people to them and they end up, not actually doing what they promised they were going to do. So one thing I recommend, especially to affiliates reaching out to me, but to everybody in general, if you want to have, build a more legitimate brand, what I recommend you do is actually just get a branded email account. It's crazy how cheap these things are. So I don't understand why a lot of people don't do it. But I use G Suite, right? It's actually owned by Google. So if you guys have a Gmail account, it literally, whenever I log into my G Suite, it looks just like a regular Google account or a Gmail account, right? But, it's actually going to make it to where I have a branded email account, right? So I think it's a game changer. I've shot a whole video on that as well. I'll link to below if you want to deep dive into it. But the estimated cost for this is usually around $6 a month. So to me, it's a no-brainer for you to pay $6 to be able to have an email account that is actually going to build trust with your clients. Now, the final thing I want to touch on is building a website. Now, this is important for branding. It kind of falls in line with, having a branded email account as well. You want to be able to, direct people to your website for more information, especially whether you're talking to people in person or maybe you are, trying to get clients online. Now, this is something I wish I had known back in the day, back in my Amazon days, kind of what I was touching on earlier. When I was selling on Amazon, we were always worried about, one day that our accounts would get shut down. At the time, Amazon was just shutting down pretty much anybody that was violating, some sort of fine print that they might have had. So you kind of have to look at it from their perspective, right? Amazon's making billions of dollars. It doesn't matter if you're making 200,000 a year. They wouldn't mind, if they think that you're doing one thing wrong, right? Imagine there's some person who's sitting there, there's some employee that's sitting at his desk, and if he just doesn't like your company for whatever reason, he just clicks one button and boop, that's it. Your business is done, right? And so that was something that we were always paranoid about, especially me. And I knew that I needed a website, but always thought that it was just super complicated to do. Now, once I actually ended up jumping into it, I realized that there's actually a lot of players out there that are making the whole, website building process extremely easy. Now, two companies that I look at when it comes to, building a website. So if anyone ever asks me, hey, Tommy, I need help building a website, what should I do? I'll typically recommend these two companies. And for whatever, it depends on the type of business you're running, right? So first, I recommend Squarespace. Squarespace is great for anyone who does kind of a service-based business, right? If you just need a website where it just kind of talks about what you do and you want people to be able to book appointments or, be able to submit their information so you can reach out, I think Squarespace is great for that. Now, if you're someone who's looking to actually, you want to build an e-commerce website where you want to sell physical products or just sell products in general, I recommend you check into a company called Shopify. Now, they make it really easy of a process for you to be able to get sales and, be able to get up and running when it comes to you're going to accept payments, how you're going to, build out all the different product lines and things like that you want. I've used Shopify extensively for a lot of the brands that I've built out. I recommend that you check those guys out as well. Okay, so those are kind of the two routes you can go. Now, when it comes to the cost, Squarespace starts at about, I want to say $16 a month, and Shopify is going to start around $29 a month. But again, both are going to be great options for you if you're looking to actually have a website of your own, which I recommend. Now, I consider this the bare minimum setup. So let's go ahead and jump into what the total cost breakdown would be for you to do this for just 1 year. Now, first off, Inc. Authority was free, right? They didn't, not including your Secretary of State fees, but those kind of fluctuate. So you'll want to look into exactly how much it would cost for your Secretary of State fees. Getting a registered agent, if you need to get a registered agent, would be $125. Getting a bank account would be free. Setting up an EIN would be free. Getting a business phone number would cost you about $30 a month. Getting a professional email address will cost you $6 a month. Building out your website will cost you $29 a month. We'll pretend that you're doing a physical product business. So the total is going to come out to $857 per year, or it can be rounded to $71 per month. Now, guys, keep in mind, this is crazy considering how much it used to cost to start a business. Back in the day when there was no internet, right? For you to create a business, you literally had to buy a storefront, right? You'd have to pay for the marketing, of course. You'd have to pay for the signage. You'd have to pay to build out the inside of the store. You'd have to pay for the inventory, all those different steps, right? Now it's become a lot cheaper for you to be able to just pretty much set up your store, right? You now have a professional email, you have a phone number, you have a website, right? You have a bank account, all these things, right? Things that would have cost you easily in the $10,000, $20,000 range is now costing you less than $75 a month. Now, there are some other items that I typically recommend. What I'll do is I'll more than likely put all this information on one web page so you can go there and be able to, you kind of look at it as sort of a checklist of all the information that you'll need. Some other things that you'll want to have is you'll want to look into whether you need a business license, just depending on what field you're in. You'll want to look at possibly getting a trademark, though I recommend that after you've gotten a consistent amount of sales under a certain brand and you want to start trademarking. That's whenever I recommend looking to trademarking. Maybe you want to look into getting a bookkeeper. This is also important, especially once you have revenue coming in. And also business insurance. I think business insurance is key no matter what level that you're in. If you're dealing with customers or you have a storefront, whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that you have business insurance. Even being online, right? I recommend you look at just media insurance if you're, if you're getting clients through the internet. Now, if you want to learn more about building a business, be sure to check out my playlist where I actually talk about how to build a business, and I go deeper into each of these different topics that we've talked about, as well as other topics that you definitely want to know when it comes to, navigating the business realm. Lastly, be sure you hit the subscribe button if you found this information valuable, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. Peace.